I think you're on the right track. I really do, and I think you're doing a magnificent job, a Magnavite job.
Hey everybody, this is Lynne Magnavite. I'm with Magnavite Communications, and today is Talk Tuesday, and it's the MC Minute Live. I have a very special guest today. We're going to interview my mother. And you know why we're interviewing my mother? Is because she's funny and she'll tell some great stories. But another reason is because, well, everybody has a role model or an inspiration or a muse or somebody who helps support or cheerlead along the way. But I'm super lucky that my mother has always been my cheerleader and a role model and an incredible inspiration throughout my life. And in fact, I have this, I remember this story that I read in one of my baby books that she wrote. She said that when I was very little, I said to her something like, "Stop being a teacher, I want my mom." Mm-hmm. She has never stopped being a teacher, and in fact, she still texts me suggestions and comments and things about the videos that I post and some of the things that I do. So I thought it would be great just to have a conversation because my mom is a teacher, a retired school teacher. She's also an artist, and she's an expert communicator. So I thought it would be fun just to share a little, talk a little. Oh, this is my mother. For those of you who don't know, she's, I want to get her more in the light here.
Well, that's okay.
We've got soft focus for mom. So, my mom, Joan Magnavite, she is, as I said, she started as an artist. She was an art teacher for many years, and then shifted over as she raised her family, and then went back to teach English. So she has, to me, she's an expert communicator because she does sort of give me tips and techniques of what I'm saying wrong. And she told me the other day that I guess I use gonna too much instead of going to. And the big pet peeve for mom. So I have to watch when I say going to. She said, if you're going to speak on communications and speech, you better
Don't drop those G's.
Don't drop those G's. All right, so my first question.
Oh dear.
From a very early age, all three of us, my sister Laura and my brother Brian and I, we were all taught to perform in front of family.
Right.
Now, why was that? Why did we have to do that?
Well, we put a lot of money into your piano lessons. We decided that you should get up there and do your thing, and you always did. I mean, all three of you, although Brian was a little more reticent, but
Right.
It was expected.
So it was expected. So what we would do at family functions, Easter, Christmas, holidays, whatever, we would get up and we would do a poem or a song. And my very first one that I remember was reciting "Roses Are Red, Violets Are Blue" in Spanish.
And I taught it, not my husband.
Okay, my dad was a Spanish teacher, and my mother taught it to me.
Fractured Spanish.
Which is fractured Spanish.
That's true.
Okay, so because we had that experience, for me, I can say, I can't speak for my sister or my brother, but for me, it helped me be able to feel more comfortable in front of an audience because we were thrust into the spotlight at age 3. So describe your teaching style.
Oh, well, actually, I enjoyed teaching. I really liked the kids. My style, I guess I was strict but fun, I hope. And there are different opinions on that one. But I still hear from many of my former students, and they're very complimentary, which is very, very nice.
But the thing that I remember is that you were very engaging with your students. So you asked questions, you weren't like, there's a phrase, you weren't the sage on the stage, you were the guide on the side. You always...
No. My mother told me that I should be a teacher, like Margaret Carlo, who owned our building, and you get to go to work at 8:30, you got home at 3 o'clock, you had a bell on your desk, you rang the bell, the kids all sat up straight, and you didn't have any problems. Well, 37 years later, I never sat at my desk because I was always going to be a target. I always walked around. I never had that bell. I wish I had, because the bell would have been fun. And it was not what my mom said, but I am grateful to her for pushing me into it because I really think it was the thing I was supposed to do.
Yeah, I think so too, because I mean, you have so many students that follow you to this day, and look to you for your guidance.
And they're very, very kind, and a lot of them don't like to make too many comments because they're afraid I have my red pen out. And
I think we're all afraid of the red pen.
I know, really.
Tell me about art and how that sort of shaped the way you communicate. The way, I mean...
Well, you know, it's very interesting because I always told my students everybody could draw. And they used to say, oh, I can't draw, I can't do it. Yes, you can. And years later, Dad and I were in a pancake house, and I met one of my former students who said to me, if it weren't for you telling me that I could draw, I would not be an artist today and design jewelry. And I said, really? How neat. Where's my piece? And he was very embarrassed. And Dad said, don't say it like that. And I said, well, it's true. If I had set him on the road, he should have there should have been a Joan piece, but never was.
Ode to Joan.
Ode to Joan, yeah.
Did you have fears
when
you were first starting out?
I still do. No, seriously. No, I always also said that to my students. Giving a speech is probably the hardest thing you can do. And I had one student who gave the speech to the blackboard because she's so afraid to turn around to the class. But that was okay. She did the speech. But it's very difficult. And when you're with your students, you're a different person than you are like right now.
Right.
Because now I'm on camera, which I've never been before. I don't know how many offers from Hollywood will come in, but anyway.
Just one or two.
Just one or two. But it's a difficult thing. And I would tell them to use the 3x5 cards, but of course I don't have those right now.
And
but
notes are okay.
Right. One of the good things that I did, and the kids still remember it today, is the poem of the month. And I would pick a poem, and they would have to memorize it. And it was really an incentive for them to get up in front of someone and
get up in front of
and
somebody.
memorize. Memorization.
What is your tip for memorizing? Do you have any?
No, because I
Just
lost
repetition.
it in the years.
Well, besides
repetition.
Yeah,
right.
I would say repetition. And I think, as a joke, we were driving one day and we all sort of said the poem that we remembered.
Oh, yes.
That we had to learn when we were in school.
Yes.
Every teacher, I think, up to a certain point, and
The
I hope today
quality
they
of
do.
mercy is not strained. It droppeth like the gentle rain from heaven upon the place beneath. I could do the whole thing, but I won't bore you.
You also said that you might have this on your list because we talked about it the other day. Never say anyone's last name when you're out for lunch or dinner or out in the public.
No.
So if you're having a conversation at dinner and you're like, oh, Joe Smith, he was so awful, he did blah, 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 blah. And then Joe Smith's family or grandmother or aunt or friend or neighbor is sitting right next to you listening to everything you say.
Yeah.
Whew, that follows me everywhere I go.
That's a biggie, yes.
How'd you learn that? Was that by?
I think that was from teaching. No, I think it just becomes sort of a natural thing, because if you're going to talk about someone behind their backs, it's not really good.
No.
But if you're going to mention their names, it's really bad.
Yeah.
So if you can tell a story and not mention the person's names, that's fine.
Yeah.
And I'll be glad to listen. But I don't like when you use someone's name because it's embarrassing.
It is embarrassing. Another thing is complain. My mom is a infamous letter writer.
Mm-hmm.
If you have a bad experience, don't accept it.
Absolutely. I always believe in the letter. I mean, a lot
power
of times,
of the
the
letter.
power of the letter, the power of the word.
My favorite Joan Magnavite quote is coulda, shoulda, woulda.
Yes.
What does that mean to you?
Well, you could have done something, you should have done it, and you didn't do it. And then you kind of reflect on it and you think, why didn't I do that at the time? Or why didn't I say that at the time? But, it's over with.
So let it go.
Let it go. You can't
No
relive
regrets.
the past.
No
regrets. You can't do it because you'll drive yourself crazy. And there was another time, I don't know, I think you were 4, and my friend Dina's mother was Loretta Rozak, and she was a choreographer and very famous, and she's opened a studio in South Chicago. And I went to visit her with Lynne, and Lynne walked in. Now I swear this is true. She saw the studio and she saw the mirrors, and she said, my whole life I have wanted to be in a studio with mirrors and a bar. And I thought, a bar? I didn't even know.
Well, later in life, that's
Later.
true.
No. That came later. And Loretta said, oh my gosh, I don't take them until they're 6, but I'm going to take her.
So how do you think that helped? So exposing us to dance and the arts, how do you
Oh,
think that
well,
helped our
that
lives?
brought you out, and you were a perfect mimic. You would come home from nursery school, and you would mimic all the kids that were there. And the teacher would say, Lynn didn't take her nap today. And I go, oh, I'm so sorry. And she said, we had to put her in isolation because she keeps talking. She hasn't shut up.
I am not.
And I'm just kind of like a people person. I really like people. Sometimes not a lot, but I really like them.
I think you like them a lot.
I do.
I hate to tell you, you can't pull that card.
And when I met your father, he was the funniest man on earth. And we didn't really get married or anything, even see each other for a good 6 years. But we were in college together at the beginning, and he would make me laugh so hard that the teachers would look and say, all right, the kindergarten class over there, cut it out. So one day he came to school, and he wouldn't sit with me, and I'm going, well, what's your problem? And he said, I have to learn to be serious. And he said, I can't be around you.
There's a phrase called lifelong learning, and you never stop.
No.
Learning is the key. I mean, you could be at any age, which is why I'm starting a business now in this part of my life.
Never too young.
But your theory of you can do anything anytime, lifelong learning. I mean, you're very active in social media. You text, you have computers, you are not afraid.
Yeah.
What's your approach to new technologies and learning new things?
Well, I started with the computer when I was teaching. And I took a couple courses at the junior college, and then I went back and I helped the rest of the ladies and gentlemen with the computer.
Yeah.
So I was not afraid of them, and that's the main part. So many of my friends were afraid of them, but no, you can't be afraid of anything that's new. You have to try it.
Yeah, because what's the worst that could happen?
You make a mistake, and
You make
it
a
all
mistake.
crashes.
So, yeah, making mistakes is probably the key to everything, right?
Yes,
making
absolutely.
mistakes and failing.
You have to make mistakes.
Right,
Yeah, that's
exactly.
life.
So, as we kind of wind up our interview here with lessons that you taught us quite a bit, giving advice on how to, memorize and how to get over some stage fright and just, try things, not be afraid, leave that fear out, no regrets. Just do it. You can't. Well, thank you for being my first guest on my Magnavite Communications page.
I hope it won't be the last. We'll be
It
taken
won't.
off air.
So thank you for joining us, and also let us know who your mentor or inspiration or role model is and why. And have a fabulous Tuesday.
Okay. Just kidding.
Bye.
Glory be.